Hi everyone, this is Dustin, the blind Minnesotan. Today I want to talk about metro mobility and how the state can improve the service. Metro mobility is a ride sharing service here in Minnesota, and it helps people with physical disabilities and people like me who are visually impaired get places around the state of Minnesota. And because there's not a lot of competition for Metro Mobility does not have a lot of competition because companies like Uber and Lyft don't here in Minnesota don't really care about the physically disabled community who has wheelchairs and walkers and crutches. So people like me who are vision impaired, who don't have a physical disability, if we really wanted to, we could just take Uber and Lyft and we get around. But if you're someone like my friend Paul, who's wheelchair bound and they can't take an Uber and Lyft because Uber and Lyft don't have accessibility vans that can where Paul can like take his scooter like and ramp into the van and go places. Because Metro Mobility in the state of Minnesota is the only service that my friend Paul can like drive his red scooter up to. They lower the ramp, he hops on the ramp, he like drives into the vehicle, straps down, and gets driven places. And a lot of seniors they can't take Uber or Lyft either because the same issue. A lot of them are in wheelchairs, a lot of them are in walkers, and then Metro Mobility is the only service that we have where they can bus walker onto the bus because of the ramp, or wheelchair onto the bus because of the ramp. But because Uber and Lyft don't have those kind of van-like buses to help disabled and senior people get around, there's there's no competition for Metro Mobility. So because Metro Mobility has no competition, the service sucks. So because the only way to increase um, this better service is to have competition, and the Metropolitan Council, the Metropolitan Council, the government body here in Minnesota that controls all public transportation, they're not bringing in competition for Metro Mobility, so Metro Mobility can't improve. And then a lot of people take Metro Mobility. So be tough like you're a wheelchair user and you live in Champlin, or like you're a wheelchair user and you live in Northern Blaine, or if you're a wheelchair user and you live in Coon Rapids, Anoka, Maple Grove, Plymouth, St. Louis Park, Edina, Wayzata, Bloomington, White Bear Lake, Roseville, um, Clear, no, Stillwater. That's the town I'm looking for. And those kind of like the edge of the suburbs where there's no city bus, you're screwed. So people with wheelchairs and seniors, they're forced to take Metro Mobility because there's no other because Lyft and Uber, they don't care about people with physical disabilities. So they don't have a vehicle for those clients. So there's technically two companies that control Metro Mobility service here in Minnesota because the Metropolitan Council contracts has a department called Metro Mobility, and Metro Mobility has contractors. So Metro Mobility signs up with third-party contractors to run the Metro Mobility service because the Metropolitan Council here in Minnesota is too lazy to hire their own drivers. So to run Metro Mobility, so they have to use contractors. I wish the state of Minnesota would just stop being fucking lazy and just hire real drivers who work for that council and don't have to rely on third party contractors. So then those drivers would work directly for the state of Minnesota because it would keep the drivers longer. The drivers would have better pay. The drivers would have better benefits, and and the state of Minnesota would have more control over the agencies. But because Minnesota doesn't have control over the agencies, state of Minnesota, the service sucks. See, Uber and Lyft, they because Uber competes against Lyft and Lyft competes against Uber, and they compete with the taxi companies. So they're always have to have pressure to increase their service. But if you're like the senior or you have physical disability, there's no other companies to compete against these contractors who are contracted with Metro Mobility. So the service is not increasing. So the three companies are, the first one that controls the Minneapolis side of the river is called Metro West Zone Team Transit. The one that controls the St. Paul side of the river is called Metro East Zone First Transit East. And then the company that controls the Bloomington metro area is called Metro South Zone First Transit South. So there is, see if you look here, I'd be lucky Columbia Heights, where I live, is kind of like where the east and west zones clash. So I can either go either direction. So the whole point of Metro Mobility is to help people get from the suburbs here to downtown St. Paul. And the whole point of this services down here is to get people with their wheelchair bound or seniors to Bloomington. And the whole service here, their whole purpose is getting people from like Anoka, Champlin, and all that to downtown Minneapolis. That is kind of the service. And see how the services have like three different phone numbers and stuff. So based on this map, you will figure out what service you belong to. And you can only technically get rides from that service. So because I live in the East Zone, technically the whole point of Metro Mobility is to get me towards St. Paul. If I live in the blue zone, the whole point would be get me to downtown Minneapolis. If I live in the green zone, the whole point would get me to Bloomington. Yes, people in Minnesota don't see Bloomington as a major city, but yes, Bloomington is a really major city. So Bloomington is just as competitive as Minneapolis and St. Paul in the state of Minnesota. So the first thing that they need to do to improve the service is they need to make it more of like an Uber or Lyft like experience. So the Metropolitan or Metro Council that controls all this stuff in Minnesota needs to make an app. They need to call it like Metro Mobility Go or Metro Mobility, Inc. or Metro Mobility Travel app or Metro Mobility, you know what I mean? And they need to turn the service more like Uber, where you go on an app and you say, "Hey, I want to book rides for tomorrow." So then after that, you go on this app, you book. They do have a website. I do give them credit. They do have a website, but they need to actually invest because they're getting money from my taxpayer money and from my dad's money, my mom's money. And they need to physically make an app like Uber and Lyft where like you can go in and say, "Hey, I want to book a ride now," and you wait for it like an Uber or Lyft ride, or I can book a ride tomorrow. So the good thing and then, of the day of the ride, you can track your bus. So the good thing about Uber and stuff is when I order the ride now, you can see all the buses around you. And then, what's funny is, and then you can click the one you want and the price. So the good thing is if you do it now, so what Metro Mobility can do is if you do want to ride now, they charge you more for that ride. That's what they should do. Metro Mobility should do. And then, and then you can kind of then after that you pick your bus and then and like do you want because Metro Mobility has different kind of buses. There's ones for people without wheelchairs and that's more like of a van, and then they have that's like I only been in the van a few times, and then they have a car, and then they have the big bus for people with wheelchairs and stuff. So then after that, you can scroll through and say, okay, I want a van, or want the big bus. And then you can click on which one you want, and then if like you do the now kind of order thing like Uber or Lyft, and then after that they'll send that to you, pick you up and take you where you want to go right away. And they can make that like a premium option. Metro Mobility can make that a premium option. Like, hey guys, this is going to be a premium service. So like you're not going to get discounts on it because it's premium. And then they can make a non-premium service that's subsidized by the state, where like, hey, you have to go into the app and you have to book the ride for tomorrow. Because Metro Mobility, the reason why it doesn't cost me $15 to get to my friend Paul's house in Champlin, or one way, or it doesn't cost me $15 to get to the Brooklyn Park Library, is because that ride is getting subsidized by the state of Minnesota. So so then they need to kind of create an app where um where where then you can book the rides for tomorrow. And then, but if you do that, if you do that way, you're not getting premium rides. So then you're getting like you're getting the discounted rides from the state of Minnesota because you're not doing premium. And then what's funny is, and then after you book your ride, saying, "Hey, this is where I want to go," what happens is the app will show you like, okay, they're gonna pick this person up, and they're in this they're you don't have to show them their exact location. You can say, hey, they're in this neighborhood of St. Paul, and then we're gonna drive to you in this neighborhood, and then after that we're gonna go to this other neighborhood. Don't show them their direct house, but then like we're gonna drive to this neighborhood, and then drive to this neighborhood, and then we'll drop you off. And then so then after that, so during the day when the person goes into the so then when like they start your part of the route, the app can send you a notification saying, hey, the bus is coming your way, and then it'll show it leaving the neighborhood that it's leaving, from that other person's place, and it'll show the bus coming towards you in real time, like Uber and Lyft does. So then you can actually see where the bus is, because a lot of times when the Metro Mobility bus is running late, I get curious, like, where's my bus? Is it, you know what I mean? And I have to call them, and then I have to put more strain on the phone people because I'm calling them asking about, hey, where's my Metro Mobility bus? But if I can open up an app and see, okay, my Metro Mobility bus is leaving West St. Paul and it's coming to Columbia Heights, and I see that's going down University, so it's going to hit all these lights. Then I know, okay, cool, my bus is heading towards me. Even okay, because you know how Metro Mobility, one of their policies is they can be up to a half an hour late. Then I know, okay, it's beyond the half an hour late, but I know they're late because they're stuck on University with all those traffic lights. So then I'm not calling Metro Mobility, clogging up the line, just trying to figure out where my bus is. And then when you're also talking to your family, like, or your job or your boss, and if you're running late, your boss is, how long, where are you, when are you going to be here? You can open up the app and say, hey, hey, according to this, I should be there in 30 minutes because we're going to picking up this person here, dropping them off, and then we're dropping me off. So then you know what to expect, where like you're going, why you're going, and that can be like the regular service, not the pre that service can be discounted by the state of Minnesota, because that's going to be like the more old school Metro Mobility. And then you can have the now/express service, where Metro Mobility can charge like Uber like prices and Lyft like prices, but you get the service now. Get what I'm saying? Because my friend Paul, he would love that. My friend Tyler would love that. My friend Donovic would love that because sometimes, you need to go someplace now, and you can't just call Metro Mobility up and say, "Hey, can you please pick me up now?" You mean they don't work that way. But if you made like an express service where people can get you now and you charge like Uber like prices, you mean someone like my friend Paul says, cool, there's available shift right now because my coworker finally got sick. He can go into the Metro Mobility My Ride or Metro Mobility Go or whatever app they create, and then my friend Paul can click on it, and then he can say, hey, and then he can make a ride right now. And then Metro Mobility, yeah, he'll have to pay Uber like prices, but then my friend Paul can go to pick up that shift right now. Because the issue with my friend Paul, because he's wheelchair bound, if for example, if someone at work suddenly opens up a shift, and Paul can't just call Metro Mobility and say, "Hey, I want to work today." You mean because Metro Mobility's policy says you have to call 2 or 3 days ahead. But if they had a service where they charge like Lyft or Uber prices, and they could get you there now, it would actually help someone like my friend Paul because they can come, he can track them coming in the app. He can get out there, put a scooter on, and then boom, they can take him straight to Como Zoo or straight to Maple Grove Community Center and all that stuff. And then boom, he can work and be productive member of society. So, and then because my friend Paul can't take an Uber or Lyft because they don't have a scooter ramp where he can just drive up, hit the ramp, and go right into the bus. And then also, a lot of disabled people, they're forced to take Metro Mobility because there is not enough affordable housing along the bus route. There's not, because right where we're competing, at least here in Anoka County, us disabled people are competing against baby boomers over affordable housing on the bus route. So the issue is because there's not enough affordable housing on a good bus route, us disabled people are forced to move out to the suburbs where there is no bus route, and then we have to rely on Metro Mobility that sucks right now. And with Metro Mobility sucking right now, we can't be productive members of society. But if Metro Mobility kind of creates an app with a premium service, like, hey, we'll pick you up now, but you have to pay Uber like prices, you mean? It would definitely change the disabled people's lives, and having it doing through all through an app where you can track the bus and stuff, and plus letting people book their rides like the old school way too, where like you could do 2 or 3 days ahead of time, but do a ride share and still get the discount from the state. You mean have both options, have an express option and have an old school option where like the rides are still discounted by the state, and then put it all in one app. And then the disabled people can have, and then the good thing is if like you're doing the old school option through the app, you can track where your bus is, and then like what's causing delays, what's causing problems and all that. And then if like you're doing the new express option, you can just go exactly from your house to your job or your doctor or whatever, wherever you need to go. But you're paying more for it. And then also another thing that the Metropolitan Council needs to do is, sorry, Metropolitan Council. I can never say that fucking word. Um, what they need to do is they also need to, in the state of Minnesota, they also need to pass a law saying companies like Uber and Lyft and taxi companies need to buy scooter and wheelchair accessibility vans. So then it doesn't say that they have to have a bunch. The law says they should at least have two. So then if someone like my friend Paul needs to get to Como Zoo or Maple Grove Community Center to pick up a shift suddenly, he can, when he goes on Uber and Lyft, he can say, "Hey, I'm disabled. I'm a wheelchair user. I need a special van." They can send a driver who's trained in that special van to come pick him up and take him work, even if he has to pay a premium price for it. Because I feel kind of bad for physical disabled people like my friend Paul, because one, there's not enough affordable housing for people like him along the city bus lines, so he has to live out in the suburbs. And then two, there's not a lot of ride sharing options for someone like him. So he's only stuck with a sucky option because there's no options for someone like him, but Metro Mobility. And three, the sucky part is Metro Mobility is not investing in themselves to make themselves the best app ever for people with disabilities, even when they're sucking our taxpayer money here in Minnesota. They're not investing in the disabled community that they're supposed to be serving. And also, the map system that Metro Mobility has sucks. It sucks. Why cannot Metro Mobility go to Apple and say, or the whole state of Minnesota go to Apple and say, hey, can we use your Apple Maps? Can we pay you so much a month to use Apple Maps to drive our clients around? Because their maps, my brother, he lives in a newer apartment up in Blaine, and to them, it looks like he still lives in a cornfield, and they don't want to drive me to a cornfield. So, and I have to explain to the lady when I'm on the phone, he does not live in a cornfield. He lives in a new apartment building, blah, blah. And then she said, wait, let me pull a look on my phone. And then she looks and she sees my brother's apartment building there. So, but if they use an app like Apple Maps, you mean on the on the dashboards for the drivers, they would actually get more modern directions. They would actually know where things are. And they'll still have privacy for their customers. Apple would be happy because they're getting a monthly subscription for that service. And then everyone would be happy because they'd be able to get around better because Apple Maps is way better than whatever system they're driving with. And it'll be so much benefits. Metro Mobilities need to invest in themselves, and and I just and it's just hard not to be irritated as a disabled person because right now the only good choices I have are the city bus or Lyft and Uber. And Lyft and Uber is super expensive. I just wish as a disabled person who lived in Minnesota, I would have more choices. And Metro Mobility is one of those choices, but it's like when I book a ride, this is what I do. First, I see if there's a city bus there. And if there's a city bus there, I take the city bus because it's way better than Metro Mobility. And then I check the price. If there's not, I check the price of Uber or Lyft. And then I do the math. Like, do I have the budget to take Uber and Lyft there? If I do have the budget to take Uber and Lyft there for that month, I will take Uber and Lyft over Metro Mobility, even if it's a higher cost, because Uber and Lyft will get me there on time. They'll tell me exactly where they're going and all that stuff. And Metro Mobility is like my only option. Metro Mobility is the last option I take when I'm broke. Like this month, I only have like $150 left in my account, and I don't have the money to take Uber and Lyft this month. But so that's why I took Metro Mobility. I take Metro Mobility because Metro Mobility costs me cheaper because just going someplace cost me $5 and going back home cost me $5. So Metro Mobility is cheaper for me than see that $10 getting home and back would only cost me one way with Uber or Lyft. So like some months when I'm a tighter budget and I don't have a lot of money, I'm forced to take Metro Mobility because I can't afford Uber or Lyft as a disabled person. But um but so Metro Mobility is always my last option. Metro Mobility is always my last option because the service sucks. I'd rather pay an arm and a leg for a company like Uber and Lyft to get me places and have it be reliable than Metro Mobility. Because Metro Mobility with me is always late. The drivers don't know where I live. I even one time I was leaving my brother's house in Blaine, and I told the driver he hops a 94, and he's heading towards downtown Minneapolis. I told him, hey man, my address isn't downtown Minneapolis. My address is in downtown Minneapolis. Columbia Heights is not in downtown Minneapolis. You're going past it right there. I pointed to, because we're going along the river. That's Columbia Heights over there. He did not listen to me. And then we get to downtown, and he's like, and then what's funny is his because their system is always glitchy or whatever. And then we show up to my old building, and I'm like, I don't live here anymore. He said he looked, he saw my address has changed and all that stuff. So then of course, he finally heads the right direction, making the other lady late because now we have to drive half an hour north again to go to my house. And then I called Metro Mobility's like customer service, and I said, hey, this is the issue, this is the issue, this is the issue. I had to call 5 times because every time I kept on going up to Blaine or going to my dad, seeing my dad at Creative Church in Maple Grove, I kept on running into that issue. I tried to go see my friend in Champlin. They kept on trying to take me to downtown, even when I had the right address in Columbia Heights, because the drivers don't know where anything is. And I don't blame them. If I had to remember like 23 suburbs around Minneapolis and St. Paul, I wouldn't know either. But the issue is they have a glitchy system that that's not modern, that has glitches, and it causes everyone problems. Because when I'm trying to get to my brother's house so we can get to Easter on time, and your system's glitching, you forget about me, you make me late, I get pissed because I told my brother I would be at his house at 10:30, and I told Metro Mobility I want to be there at 9:30. So then it gives so then if they're late, it doesn't make me late. But they were so late because they forgot about me. Their system glitch was glitching because they don't care about their disabled customers. That's why they don't invest in their systems. And it's just it made me late, and I was so pissed. I was so pissed because I was trying to get to my brother's an hour early, and I was just going to wait in his lobby until it's time for me to actually meet up with him. And I just get so pissed. I just but my friend Paul, who that's his only choice of transportation, he's stuck with using them because Uber and Lyft, they don't have a accessibility van for him to just drive his scooter into, sit, get strapped in, and go. So I get mad because my friend Paul doesn't people like my friend Paul who have physical disabilities or seniors who need their walkers or wheelchair, they have no choice but to use the sucky service. While me, at least who's vision impaired, it's just my eyes that suck, and but my physical body is fine. We can have a good experience if we're willing to pay and have the money by taking Uber and a Lyft. But until things happen, Metro Mobility is going to continue to suck. I'm thankful that they have it. I'm thankful that we have the service because it gives me time. It gives me transportation when I'm broke, and I have to go someplace without a city bus. And so I'm happy that they exist. But and I'm happy they exist because they help my friend Paul get opportunities that he wouldn't have if Metro Mobility wasn't around. But at the same time, we can be thankful that there's a service to help us. But it doesn't mean that they can like neglect us too. So I just get mad. I just get frustrated. I'm just angry because as a disabled person, I feel like I'm already shoved into a corner where the world just forgets about us because I apply for jobs, I get denied after they figure out I'm disabled. There's not enough disabled housing for me to even live in. So I am 27 years old living with my parents because there's not enough disabled housing for people like me to live in. That along the bus line so I can have independent life. Our medical assistance sucks because not a lot of private insurance will take it. Social Security doesn't give enough us to live on. So because it doesn't give us enough to live on, I'm trying to find employment to help me pay my bills. But because the employers don't like hiring disabled people, that also puts another barrier on my list. So right now I'm just frustrated. I'm angry. I'm I'm pissed. You mean? And if we can't, the one thing in this world that we can, us as disabled people, we can control or have something to say over is metro mobility. Because I can't go into a Walmart with a gun and say, hire me, fuckers, or I'll blast your brains out. I can't do that because I'll be arrested because Walmart is a private company. I can't just go into Hennepin County Government Center downtown, put a gun to the HR person's head and say, hire me, bitch. I want money. You mean? I I'll be arrested because the government has the right not to hire me, even if I'm disabled. So you mean I just it also kind of ticks me off that even like places like Hennepin County Government Center, who's supposed to help disabled people and get employment, help in even the human services department in the government center that's supposed to help disabled people get benefits and housing and all that stuff, they don't even hire disabled people. They like everyone you walk in when I walk into the one in downtown, everyone I see behind the human services desk are all enabled bodied people. Like, where's your person in a wheelchair? Where's your blind person with a talking monitor? You mean? And so as a disabled person, I already feel like there's disrespected. But then you have services like Metro Mobility that suck and are not invested in. And the government's like, ha ha ha, you're a wheelchair user, take Metro Mobility. And because of the service sucks, we already have opportunities against us. And because this Metro Mobility service sucks, we even lose more opportunities because when like you need to take Metro Mobility to work to pay your bills because you can't afford housing on your social security, if like you don't have reliable transportation and Metro Mobility is not reliable, you mean you're going to get fired from your job because you're not showing up on time, you're not being consistent, because Metro Mobility is not that kind of service. So that's why in my speeches, I encourage a lot of disabled people, just to go. Just if you can't find affordable housing along a bus line, just go to St. Paul and camp in a tent, because technically the Capitol grounds and the government offices in St. Paul are technically state and federal property. And because they're state and federal property, technically you're allowed to camp there. And then because that's taxpayer money. And if they try to remove you, say F you, this is I pay we pay taxes, this is government land, so I'm allowed to sleep on it. Because if they're not gonna house us along the bus line, if they're not gonna give us enough social security to live in housing along the bus line, and if they're not going to make a service like Metro Mobility, Lyft, or Uber like accessible to everyone who's in a wheelchair or walker or that kind of stuff, you mean how do they expect us to be successful? How do they expect us disabled people to be successful? It's like they want us to fail. It's almost like the baby boomers who design these policies want us to fail. Well, guys, I just want to talk to you guys quick about how they can improve metro mobility, because I'm just angry and I'm tired, and it just made me feel good. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye bye.